What is going on, everybody? And in this video, we're providing you a state of the market and stock picks for May 27th, 2022. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, consider subscribing, as I do provide daily and weekly updates to get you prepared for the day and the week ahead. And in this lovely market, you're going to need a little bit of preparation. So being said, state of the market. We had beautiful strength today, but ultimately to understand, will it stick? Yesterday, we got the notes essentially that said that the Fed is going to take steps. They're going to be a little more aggressive than necessary so that they can catch inflation before it runs away. Again, I reiterated yesterday that Kathy Wood had brought this up, that the Fed was being very overly hawkish, but that report essentially stated that, okay, well, that's a good thing because they are catching inflation. And if we give it time, that we could potentially start seeing a lot more easing on inflation. And that what the Fed is currently doing is overdoing it right now, being extremely hawkish, in that we will see within time that it will come down, that inflation will start coming down. Now, we have seen this in some data already, but it's not coming down as quick as the Fed would like it to. That's why they're doing 50-point basis moves. And so this whole idea of 75-point and 100-point basis moves that is being thrown out there by the media could be incorrect, in that, again, Powell likes the current numbers where they're at as far as pricing in. So we got a lot of that information yesterday through that report, through the last couple times we've seen Powell. Again, market is starting to realize that. We got a nice pump today. Now, is this pump legit or is it not, is the question. I do like where we closed today. We closed above essentially the 20 EMA on the daily. Now, we do have that hard ceiling at the 41.22 mark on the monthly. That's going to be a tough resistance to break. As you can see, we did get rejected pretty hard off it just a couple days ago, but that was the first attempt. This is our second attempt. Could we have enough fuel to break through this is the question. We do have a long weekend, so keep that in mind. The market is closed on Monday, and I believe the bond market closes early tomorrow. So you'll lose some volume tomorrow. Because of that, is typically on those days you can get a massive push on those days. It really just depends on the market sentiments and how aggressive the market is first thing in the morning. So that'll be our biggest gauge, is pre-market, and determining what the market wants to do. If it's going to continue this rally, if it does, that'd be a great sign going into next week. We could have a really good rally next week if that's the case. But again, you have to remember, we're coming through a lot of resistance, so you're going to start breaking. You have to start breaking through some of the stuff moving forward. But I do like this, and I think if we do get a rally tomorrow, we'll probably again get a pretty hard rejection. It's not going to be nowhere near as hard as this one, but you'll see some sort of rejection off this again, this 21.26. Once we get a rejection off of that, we could potentially break this. Now, watching this 20 EMA today, we hardly even moved. The market didn't even hardly flinch hitting this line. This is why I said the first time you retest, you'll get a really hard rejection. And then the second attempt, it pretty much almost buttered straight through this, and there was so much momentum to the upside. Again, we have to open up above this tomorrow. That's what's key. If we do open up above this, we could get, again, a massive run. And again, from that run for the index, just tomorrow alone, you're looking at 67 points in one day. So it's a massive run potentially tomorrow if we open up above that. Now, that's on the index. That's not saying your individual stocks aren't going to run. A lot of these stocks, again, a lot of the ones I watch, could potentially have really huge days tomorrow. We're talking like 50, 60 points tomorrow run till we hit that 20 EMA. So just keep that in mind. Again, it really depends on how we open. Bitcoin, I know there was that scare yesterday on Ethereum as far as some of the blocks, and they were doing something as far as the nodes in themselves, trying to update the nodes. So there was a little bit of scare there on the east side. Again, the market's holding this 28 level extremely well. To be honest, my theory again about this, with everything being changed that people aren't aware of, with the underlying blockchain technology is essentially replacing everything. I think this is really just a key for a lot of consolidation, that you got some institutions or somebody buying a lot of this during this time. This is a huge consolidation area. We've been doing that for a while. This is just more of a consolidation. And what I've always talked about, when you got some big institution or someone trying to get massive shares or collect Bitcoin, it doesn't matter what you're looking at, it's all the same. When people and big institutions are trying to collect on an asset, you'll have these huge consolidations. So you have these essential support levels, and people are like, oh, well, if it breaks the support level, then we're done. It's not the case, because institutions need the liquidity. So what they'll do is they'll break major supports, and then they'll hang out in these lower areas to essentially tag everybody out to get the liquidity that they need to get essentially the shares or Bitcoin, whatever the case is, whatever the asset is, they can accumulate as much as possible because you have fear in the market because it broke a technical support. And so once you get that liquidity, these institutions add as much as they can, and then that's when you see the pop. You see these massive rip ups, and that's typically what happens. It doesn't matter. It happens in the stock market all the time. It happens with banks. Happens with gold and silver. Right? Those are some of the most manipulated assets when you talk about anything to do with the stock market or anything of that nature. So being said, so Bitcoin, I think is that's where it's at. I think we could potentially see a massive rip if the market does start ripping. Again, I see Bitcoin doing the same. I think they both run in parallel. Again, you want to look at gold. I got GLD here. Gold has been, people were predicting this thing to run up. I can't even remember. I think it was like $500 at one point, right? But the steam came out of this when people started realizing there was Bitcoin and started realizing about NFTs and the underlying technology, and that is more of an asset than a piece of gold that you can't take across borders, right? Because of wars or whatever the case is. So being said, it lost a lot. Lost a lot of potential, right? It lost a lot of potential going forward, especially with the way the markets were and everything, because people found more value in crypto. And so, again, this is my opinion. Everybody has their own opinion. Take it for what it's worth. Again, none of this is financial advice anyway. So Tesla, going back to Tesla, had that wedge break. Nice breakup today. It was one of the leaders today, aside from GME, which GME went absolutely bonkers today. You had another nice massive push off of Amazon. So you're seeing tech gain strength. And again, something before we actually get into Tesla and before we actually got on the other charts, I want to look at banks, something I brought up yesterday. You need to watch banks. Banks are breaking out. This is going to push the index. There is massive room here for banks to really start running. JPM has been leading this charge. You got Goldman Sachs breaking out, ready to lead this charge. They got huge points. This is why I think we're going to run massively tomorrow. BAC is trying to break out. It's the next one to break out, right? This banks will lead the charge. Now, you've had banks for about 2 days, primarily because of JPM. Now you have value. You have Target started to push back. You have CAT that's starting to break out. It could be a potential good one here tomorrow to play, as long as it can hold that 211 tomorrow. CAT could have a nice run back up to at least that 222 mark, and then potentially break out from there. Again, after a break, you're looking for about a 75% retracement of the peak here. So you could potentially be hitting for that 227. So you're starting to see value rotate into this push, and that's what you want to see. And then you're starting to get some tech leaders. Your Tesla and your Amazon really started leading today. Apple was trying today to push up. So when you see that massive rotation of everything pushing, that is extremely bullish. But again, it started with the banks. And this is why I always keep saying to look at the banks, because when the banks start pushing, that's your general consensus that the rest of the market will start following once they have that leverage to start pushing up everything will shortly start to go after. So going back to Tesla, had that nice wedge break. I was calling it here that it looked like it was descending and getting very tight, like it was going to break out. And sure enough, it did today. Again, we want to watch this level tomorrow. If we can break that 710 tomorrow, we could get a nice rip up to the 760 tomorrow. Again, you're going to get a hard rejection off. This is the first time we've even touched that 20 in probably about almost 2 weeks here. So you're going to get a hard rejection off that. But ultimately, we want to see where we land. I think even if we do get a hard rejection, depending on how much of that rejection is, again, there was so much momentum, even this first attempt back up. Once you start getting good positive news and momentum, again, you could get a pretty hard rejection, so about 50%. So you could even look at a $30 pullback and then potentially rip or gap up over these things, some of these levels. And that's what I'm kind of thinking is if we can get good enough momentum, we could potentially wake up next week with a big gap up over some of these resistance levels to potentially start running. Again, the market is tired of this. Now you can see the market gets to a point to where it doesn't care anymore about all the bad news that's going on. We do have more positive news that we could be hitting almost peak of inflation. And so that being said, that's going to turn this market around and causing us to slowly start pushing up. That being said, what else are we looking at tomorrow? I think Google can have another massive day. I think if we can, again, hold above this 2176 tomorrow, I think you get a nice push up to 2155. I say 2170 to 2260. So you're almost looking about an 80 point run here tomorrow. Could potentially happen on Google. It's been lagging. You're trying to fill that gap. It sort of filled that gap today. But could potentially, again, run massively going into tomorrow. So really want to watch Google on that one there. Some good ones like SQ still has a little headroom, so we want to make sure that clears out first. Amazon not getting close. Google not getting close. Airbnb could potentially be really big tomorrow too, as long as it stays above the 115 mark. You got that line sitting at 123. I think if everything starts pushing, you're going to get Airbnb as well following suit after that. GME, I want to bring this one up just because I know there's a lot of people playing this, especially I have these two massive rips here. Now, one thing to keep in mind when you're playing things like this, there's going to be a pump, right? We had the first pump on the first day. Obviously, second day pumps are going to be just as good, if not better, than the first day pumps. So keep that in mind. That's why I bring up Tesla, because Tesla had that nice pump today. It should have a really great pump tomorrow. GME had a nice pump again today, but then wicked. Could potentially get a nice pump. You go potentially into a third, fourth day. But you got to be careful around that third or fourth day because it's going to die out and then they'll start selling off. So my thing has always been I try to catch it second, potentially third days, fourth days. I just let it go because potentially it's going to get rejected hard and start selling off, right? You can't keep going parabolic and expect it to keep going parabolic. You need to be taking profits along the way and realize that this thing by the third or fourth day is going to start selling give back at least 50% or more of the potential pump that it's had. And you've seen a good wick here today. So that would be one thing to keep in mind. As long as it can hold the 119 mark here, could be a nice back test, potentially a nice run back up to the 136. So I want to keep this on radar. Again, if you're new to the stock market, don't be playing these things and trying to scalp these things because you will definitely get wrecked on these things. You see these massive parabolic, you're going to get FOMO, and then you're going to catch that third or fourth day, what I was just talking about, and then it's going to sell off 50%. You're going to be holding bags, so just be careful on those. AMC, same thing. It's starting to catch some momentum off of GME. GME has a lot more going for it. Obviously, has a crypto wallet and everything going for it, but if AMC can break the 113 and open up above that, you get a pretty clean shot up to 1521. So watch that to fill potentially tomorrow. Again, if you're a rookie to this game, you definitely want to be very careful on those kind of things. Again, there's a lot of value here. You could potentially get some nice rips. If Bitcoin does decide to run, this could be a potential another good one to watch. Watch that 71 break tomorrow. potentially up to 84 tomorrow. So that could be a nice potential one to watch again tomorrow. And then if it breaks the 82 mark, I could get a really nice run up to about that 110 mark. Watching that on coin as well. So again, things are starting to move. It's just being very patient in making sure that they hold levels. Don't just think this is going to be a full reversal. You have to see it first and foremost. But I want to keep it light going into Friday. Again, it's a long weekend. I wouldn't say hold anything over the weekend. People could potentially start selling towards the end of the day tomorrow. And then again, you got an extra day there. So the markets will open on Sunday. So you got a full day where you can't trade. And if something happens on Monday and the market starts to sell, you can't get out of your position. This is why you don't typically take position moves unless there's massive amounts of momentum. We really need this market to prove it first before you think it's a full reversal. I'm going to keep reiterating that because we don't know. We need a couple days of running, at least 2 or 3 days of solid running and holding certain levels before we can think that this is a full reversal. And again, we still have a lot of levels to break through to even think that it's even a full reversal. So nonetheless, if you've made it this far, I appreciate you. Go ahead and drop a like button. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.